After hundreds of attempts and 6 hours of recording, I was finally able to 36 star the Abyss, all thanks to Baizhu. You want to watch until the end to see how I was able to clear floor 12 on version 3.6 of the Abyss. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you everyone that helped me hit my goal of 1,000 subs. Now I have a new goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. I know it's very ambitious, but that's why I'm going to need your help. So if you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. And if you really want to show your support, leave a comment below. The more comments, the more pleased the almighty YouTube algorithm is. And be sure to watch until the end. I seriously appreciate each and every one of you. You're the best. Okay, now let's get into it. So I started the cycle pretty late because I've been spending my time working on Kaveh and Baizhu. And to be honest, I've also been tenuous about starting this challenge, because of all the defeats I've racked up over the last couple of Abyss cycles. But I knew that if I don't try, then there's no chance I'll succeed. So I decided that I'll just run through floor 12 in as few attempts as possible, and I really didn't expect to do as well as I did. On my first attempt on this cycle, I was able to get 35 stars. For the first half of floor 12, I used this Alhaitham Hyperbloom team. He's using my go-to setup for him, 4-piece Gilded Dreams and Iron Sting. Next up is Fischl in 4-piece Deepwood Memories and the Stringless. This artifact set is a must for any Hyperbloom team, and it works really well on Fischl, is what I would say if I had a brain. But I completely spaced this and set her up with a bit more standard Fischl style build with 2-piece Thundering Fury and Gladiator's Finale. I ended up fixing this later, but you'll have to see how that worked out. To activate the Dendrocores, I'm using the best character in the game for this role, Shinobu. She's set up with a high EM build with 2-piece Wanderers and Gilded Dreams. Zyphos Moonlight has been my go-to weapon for her, but any weapon with Elemental Mastery works really well. The final piece to this Hyperbloom puzzle is a Hydro unit. There's hardly a better option than Xingqiu. He's using my latest go-to setup, 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate and the Sacrificial Sword. The Favonius Sword can also be another great weapon choice for him. Now let's see how well this team did in the first half of floor 12. So because this is my first run for the cycle, I didn't care how many stars I could get. My only goal was to finish floor 12. In 12-1, this team finished in 1 minute and 52 seconds. Now depending on how the Abyss is set up, you usually want to clear each half in at least 1 minute and 30 seconds. So my first run wasn't looking very promising for 36 starring this Abyss. But like I said, I'll work out the kinks later. So on to the next chamber. In 12-2, I did a bit better and finished in 1 minute and 28 seconds. Now for the final chamber, I wasn't really worried because I chose this team specifically for the dreaded Dorito bot, and they finished in just 1 minute and 13 seconds. Now let's check out the team I used for the second half of floor 12. If you've watched my other Abyss videos, then it's no surprise that I chose a Nilou Bountiful Core team. This is probably my best team now. Because I've been working on a detailed guide for Nilou, I've done a lot of research on her, and I've been able to better optimize this team. So if a guide on Nilou is something you're interested in, please smash that subscribe button. If you're not sure how Nilou works, when she's in a team with only Dendro and Hydro units, she can turn Dendro cores into very powerful Bountiful cores, which explode very quickly. She's equipped with my go-to setup for her, 2-piece ESF and Tenacity of the Millilith. And to take advantage of her crit damage substats, she's using the Black Sword. There are many ways to build Nilou, but I'll cover that in my Nilou 101 video. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that. Next up is Yaoyao. Because Nilou's Bountiful Cores damages everything nearby, including you, it's important to have a good healer in the group. Yaoyao is an excellent fit for this group because you can equip her with 4-piece Deepwood Memories, which can make the Bountiful Cores even stronger by shredding enemies' Dendro resistance. Because Yaoyao can be a very good Dendro applicator, I have her set up with this hybrid healing EM build. More Elemental Mastery means more Bountiful Core damage. She's using Katane Crossbear for this reason, and it also reduces her energy recharge requirements. Next, let's see how I set up Nahida. She's using the Widsith mostly for the crit damage substat. I don't really use Nahida on field in this group, so if you want to try this out yourself, you can also use any Elemental Mastery weapon instead. She's using 2-piece Deepwood Memories and Wanderer's Troop. If you're not sure how Nahida works, after you finish this video, feel free to check out my detailed guide on her. The only thing to keep in mind is she receives a crit rate boost based on her EM, so she's very capable even with high EM artifacts. I would have equipped her with another 2-piece Elemental Elemental Mastery artifact set, but other characters are currently using them. Which brings me to Kokomi. You are probably wondering why I have 2 healers in this group. Well, most of the damage in this team comes from the cores. I have Kokomi in a pure EM build. She's using 2-piece Wanderers and Gilded Dreams with Sacrificial Fragments for her weapon. She will provide some healing, but she's mainly being used to create the Bountiful cores. This means Kokomi is essentially the main damage dealer in this team. Well, let's see how well they did in the second half of floor 12. On my first attempt, I cleared the bottom half of 12-1 in 1 minute and 26 seconds. Not a bad clear time, but because I took so long to clear the first half, I only got 2 stars in the first chamber. In 12-2, they finished in just 1 minute and 22 seconds, which gave me my first win with 3 stars in chamber 2. And in the final chamber, they finished in a blazing 58 seconds. So that leaves floor 12 chamber 1 as the only chamber standing in my way of finally achieving 36 stars again. So now I have a new goal, 3-star chamber 1, which is much easier said than done. Now there are some chambers that are best handled by carefully studying your enemies and exploiting their weaknesses. Well, in this chamber, it's just pure chaos and is mostly down to RNG. So I put on some music and got my grind on. At first, I tried using the same exact setup I used on my initial run, but it was becoming clear that I would need to somehow change things up. This is when I realized I messed up by forgetting to use 4-piece Deepwood Memories in my Alhaitham Hyperbloom team. It definitely helped when I equipped Fischl with this set, but it wasn't a big enough boost to really help this team. So after hours of trying to 3-star 12-1, I got desperate and started trying a bunch of different teams. But these 2 teams are really the best I have, so I knew I was either going to have to get really lucky in this game of whack-a-mole or somehow make some changes to these teams that would make them do more damage. When I tried Nilou's team in the first half, I had a lot of hope in finally clearing this floor, but Alhaitham's team just isn't dealing enough damage to get the final star that I needed. I knew the only way I could make Alhaitham's team stronger was by moving Nahida to his team, so I tried a few characters to replace her in Nilou's Bountiful Core team. I feel like Kaveh would have worked if I had some better artifacts to put on him, but basically all of my best artifacts are being used on other characters in these teams. It was here that I decided to just throw in the towel. So I was feeling pretty down, so I went to see the doctor, Dr. Baizhu. This was going to be my last attempt, and because I was still working on ranking up Baizhu, I didn't have much hope that this would work at all. So I decided to try Nilou's team in the first half, just to see if this odd team full of healers was even going to be possible. Surprisingly, my first try was looking very promising, and it only took a couple more tries when I finally received my final star in the Abyss. I finally 36-starred the Abyss, and it's all thanks to Baizhu and a heavy dose of prescribed RNG. In the first half, this team finished in just 1 minute and 20 seconds. In the second half, at the last second I had to use Nahida because I messed up Alhaitham's cooldowns, but I was able to squeak by with just 3 seconds left. And here's the final setup I used in 12-1. Baizhu is equipped with the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, mostly for the HP boost, and is using 2-piece Wanderers and Tenacity of Millilith. I've only barely ranked up his skills. They're currently at 1, 2, and 3. He has pretty high energy recharge requirements, so I'm using an energy recharge sands and HP artifacts for the rest. To be honest, I'm not sure if it was Baizhu or if it was down to RNG, but if it was Baizhu that led me to 36 starting the Abyss, then the reason he made the difference was because of his passive talent. All things are of the earth. When a character is healed by his burst, they receive a damage boost to Dendro-related reactions, based on Baiju's max HP. This includes Bloom reactions. This seems to make most of the Bountiful Core explosions deal about the same amount of damage as when I have Nahida in the team, with her burst active, but I'll have to do more testing to see how he really compares to Nahida. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoy making this type of content, so why not subscribe and help me hit my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I really appreciate you for watching until the end. It seriously helps out a lot. What are your go-to teams for the Abyss? Let me know down in the comments. Again, thank you so much for making it this far, and don't forget to check out my other content. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. And just remember that you matter. I'll catch you in the next one. Subscribe.